Hey everyone, it's Alicia here at Cosmic Gateway, and I felt called this morning when I woke up to create a video just to bring some awareness around something that has been quite topical of late, and that is around entity attachments. So I thought I would present a short video just from my perspective of how we can deal with these things from a much more empowered perspective. Um, Something that I've had a lot of experience with over the years in my own personal journey and also working with clients. And I know even in recent times, there has been a lot of people going through these experiences, and it's really unpleasant. And quite often we don't even have that awareness while we're going through it. And that's part of the process. And so what I thought I'd do is have a quick discussion talking about it from my perspective, and then do a guided process that if you feel that your energy's off or low or feeling out of sorts, you can follow along with this process and hopefully get some relief and some perspective, and also work with your own energy for clearing. And we often talk about energy hygiene and how it's critical going through these times right now where we can be so impacted by what's going on globally within our own traumas and releasing and healing process, but also these other energies that we can pick up that can exacerbate what we're going through. And so I guess that's the first place that I want to start with and talk about, is that from my perspective, if we come across entity attachment, generally there's a resonance within us that is attracting that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have that come up and show up in our experience. So first of all, what is an entity attachment? If you're not familiar with that, an entity attachment is merely just an energy form that latches on or comes into your energy field. And while it's placed in the field, it can affect your moods, it can affect your thoughts, and it can even affect your physical body. So generally where they sit or lie, when I do process and work with people, tend to detect them quite often in the stomach, in the solar plexus region. And when that sits in there, you can feel uncomfortable, you can have pains in the stomach. So physically it can show up in that way. But of course the solar plexus is related to our own personal power. So we can feel helpless, hopeless. We can start to have feelings of lack of power or empowerment. Another thing that can happen if you pick up a foreign energy within the stomach area of the solar plexus is that directly relates to our thought patterns as well. So quite often we can start to have mood swings or erratic sort of thoughts that maybe aren't our own. And this is something that I've come across quite a lot, where we can have intrusive thoughts and just weird thought patterns that maybe aren't necessarily our own. And I think that's one of the first things to really detect, is when you're starting to feel out of sorts and having darker thoughts or things like that, asking the question, is this mine? Or am I being impacted in some way? The other place that the energy can or likes to target is our heart. So it disconnects us from our soul essence, essentially. We can feel disconnected from love or feeling compassion for ourselves and people around us, and merely feel quite disconnected from a higher perspective. Another place is obviously in the brain, in the higher chakra area, and that can cloud our thoughts and our perspective and we can make us feel quite disconnected. So obviously it can impact any place in the body, but they're the main ones where it tends to show up. So coming back to looking at it from a more empowered perspective, I always say that if we take on energy form, or we have some sort of form of an attachment that latches onto us, it's not dismissing it and going, oh, that's not mine, I've picked that up. It's taking personal responsibility as to why have I attracted this into my experience. And as I said, quite often there can be some deep-seated traumas that have been underlying or haven't been accessed fully. And often there's a resonance there. So if an entity comes in that is going to exacerbate feelings of hopelessness or fear, for example, there's probably aspects within us that is looking for healing and it wants to be highlighted. So through that process of having that attachment, it is merely just highlighting to us something that wants to be resolved or healed from within. So that's where we can really take our power back and be able to see it from that vantage point, rather than coming from it from a fearful place. Second thing is looking at understanding, what has this taught me? What is the lessons here? How can I resolve this within myself so I don't have to go through that again? Am I being shown something so that I can be a greater healer or more compassionate towards other people? There's a whole different plethora of reasons as to why we may encounter and have these experiences. Another thing to take into consideration is that as we're going through these more intense passageways of energy on the planet, as we go through this transition, there is a lot of darker energies that are coming up from the surface. And it reminds me, we go through these phases a couple of times a year, and it reminds me of, if you haven't seen Spirit Science, the human history movie, where they talk about where some of the lower level dimensional beings come up and attach to other beings and make them quite sick. And I think what we're going through now is there's such a cleanup effort that is occurring on this planet, through all dimensional realms, is that there is probably a lot more energy forms or entities that are sort of latching on and interfering with our process, or are they assisting our process and taking that more empowered vantage point? So, we can all be susceptible, and I've just recently gone through a phase where I have felt quite disempowered and felt quite lethargic, lack of energy, and very intense mood swings. And when you're susceptible in a low place, that's where that can take hold and take charge. And in essence, the purpose of there are varying degrees of entity attachments. You can look at just lost souls or spirits who haven't transitioned and maybe don't even know that they've crossed over, and they're just looking for an energy source or help or support. That can be one thing if you're orienting to more mediumship skills and abilities. And then you can go to the full scale, sort of demonic entity in possession. And I've dealt with varying degrees of all of this throughout my work and throughout my life. So, keep in mind, depending on where you're at and what you're dealing with, you may need additional support going through that. Sometimes it can take someone who's outside of you to help support you. And sometimes it's something very easy that you can do yourself if you have the confidence to do that. So where can entities come from? Entities can come from anywhere, really. There was a time where I would talk about picking them up from dark spaces and places, but I think just in the energetic climate, as I said, we've got a lot of dark energy that's releasing from the surface of the planet. So it's sort of coming up, and if you are a bright light or a beacon of light, that is an energy source. But ways that we can help navigate through is to not be in fear. I think that's really important overall, but when we're in fear, that's creating more of that loose energy, which is then feeding sort of negative or darker entities. And so when we stay in that fear or disempowerment, that just sort of perpetuates it. Another thing to take into consideration of where attachments can come from, obviously substance abuse can be one of them, by opening up or having, letting your defenses down, but that is not limited to just substance abuse, whether it's taking drugs or alcohol, things like that. And I always say everything in moderation. If that's something that you enjoy doing, do that, but with keeping in mind you want to keep your energy clear and you want to have a good time. So Environment is a big factor. So going into large crowds or densely populated places, things like shopping centers, things like that, you know, or bars, nightclubs especially, is sort of a cesspool for where a lot of lower energies can thrive or connect to, latch onto. Also through connections, so intimacy and intimate partners, you know, and sharing sacred space with people, you know, is another way that energy can be transferred. Or if there's entities attached to other people that you're being intimate with, that is probably one of the biggest ones that I've seen, especially in the transference of sexual energy, because there is a lot of feeding off that life force energy. So a couple of things to be aware of, but, you know, talking about environment and reflecting on my own experience, I remember years ago I moved into a new house and I didn't know much about the background of that house, of who lived there or anything that had taken place. But I know that as soon as I moved into that house, my mood was really impacted. My mental health was incredibly impacted. And it got to a point where I was having a lot of suicidal thoughts. And I was in a very, very low place. And then something dawned on me and I thought, actually, it was kind of a divine intervention, because I put a cry out for help, and I'd asked the universe to give me some sort of direction on, you know, what is going on with me and how can I help support myself. So at the time, then came across information to find out that a couple of people had suicide in the house prior to us moving in there. So of course, you know, doing a big house clearing and cleansing and connecting with those beings who had been trapped and hadn't crossed over. And it was like night and day, honestly. Being able to clear the house not only elevated my moods, but friends of mine who wouldn't even be, you know, sort of aware of these type of things had even noticed coming around to me, and they said, oh wow, the house feels so much lighter now, you know, what's changed, what's different. So I guess these are all the things that we can keep in consideration and do and support ourselves. So I think we'll go into a bit of a guided process with all that information that may, you know, sort of connect some dots for you, hopefully. And I really hope that this message here can be helpful to anyone who might be going through that. And obviously a timeless message. You may want to come back and, you know, go back and do the guided process whenever you suspect that maybe something is not quite right. And probably the last thing that comes to mind talking about attachments and entities is that they can play and feed on our own trauma. So once again, taking it from that more empowered perspective and approach of seeing it as, how can I best help support myself, and what is this that would like to be addressed? And so through the process of clearing and releasing entity attachments, we can take a deeper seated, proactive, action-oriented step in the right direction for our own healing. So with that, let's get into it. You might want to find a space where you can be comfortable and relax, whether that's sitting up or laying down. I would recommend not to be driving or operating heavy machinery as we go through this. And I'm just going to run some music. I like to work with frequency sound. So this is a track that Katie Jane has created, and I'll put her details in the description box below. And yeah, get comfortable. So 1 second. So just finding a space now where you can relax, be quiet, comfortable, and uninterrupted. Now just allowing yourself to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. I want you to start to focus, bring awareness to your body, how your energy feels right now. Allowing yourself to take a breath. Gentle, rhythmic, relaxing breath. And to allow yourself to get into it. Breathing in and out. Bringing your awareness into that flow of breath. Each inhale, just allowing to connect with more soothing energy. Able to connect deeper to your own presence. On the exhale, just allowing yourself let go and surrender of any cares or worries, stress and tension in your body. If the mind wanders, just bring it back to focusing on the breath. Now when you're ready, I'd like to invite you into the space. You can just feel into your body and your energy and just observing how it feels. As we do, just setting the intention that if there is anything foreign within the body, that it may be detected and picked up and cleared and transmuted. With that intention and question in your mind, you might just want to bring in a light or energy that starts at the top of the head, scans through the body, almost like a spotlight, a scanning device of energy, specifically designed to pick up anything that may be foreign. May feel it, see it, or sense it. Be an inner knowing. When you've identified that place or space within your body, you connect with that deeper. Get a sense and awareness of what that foreign energy may look or feel like. Noticing any colors or textures. Just notice how it may impact. When you're ready, allowing you now to connect with that foreign energy and asking or moving it outside of your body, outside of your energy, in front of you. You may find that there might be a little bit of resistance there. Either way, knowing that you're in control and power. Once you've got it out, notice any awarenesses that may come up around. You may want to ask questions around what does it feel like? Where did it come from? And what is it teaching? What has it taught you through this process? Not overthinking, just allowing whatever responses come up, thought, feeling or images. Just trust whatever comes through, even if it doesn't make sense. You might even ask, what is this highlighting my own healing right now? And how can I best support myself? When you've got all the information that you need at this time, get prepared now to release that entity or foreign energy. So just opening up a portal of light in front of it. Knowing that as you do so, allowing it to transition, to be carried and taken back, to transmute back to source, or to go back to where the energy needs to flow. Trusting the process that will be taken care of. To allow that energy now just to move through that portal of light. As you now close that down, making sure you shut that. Start to bring your energy, focus and awareness back to you. To bring your focus now into the heart space, that place that directly links and connects into the soul essence of you. Feel that spark of light that illuminates, allowing it to grow stronger. Allowing that to expand, to go into the parts of the body, maybe the area where you remove that energy from a foreign energy or entity, allowing your own energy to fill up that space for healing, to soothe. You may even expand that energy throughout your body and throughout your energy field. Just having a moment now just to feel into how you feel. Your own energy in your own space. Just coming back to the breath now, so just taking a couple deep breaths as you slowly and gently allow yourself to start to come back into present awareness and focus. Whenever you're ready, slowly and gently coming back, open your eyes. Just giving yourself a moment now. So I just want to thank you if you've stuck with me and gone through this process. I hope that that's helped to get you back to you, back into your energy, and feeling more empowered, more connected, and more at peace. I'd love to hear feedback in the comments section of how you went. Of course, if you need or you feel that you need further assistance, I'll put the details in the description box below. You can connect with me through personal session. And yeah, just want to thank you all. I hope that everyone's doing well. I'll come back and hopefully be making more videos soon. And yeah, embrace August. So much love. Bye.